Welcome to Pro Practice, your guide to piano mastery. I'm Josh Wright, and today's episode is based on Le Gibet, the second movement from Maurice Ravel's Gaspard de la Nuit, or Gaspard of the Night. This harrowing piece has a poem that it is based on, as do all the pieces from this suite, which I will read. But for those of you who are not familiar with the piece, I'll go ahead and play the first 8 bars or so of the piece. I also have a professional recording of this if you're interested in listening to that online, and there are so many wonderful recordings of this piece. I would highly recommend listening to as many as you can find. Here we go. We'll stop there. This piece is one of my dad's favorites, funny enough. He said it really makes him contemplate mortality, and it certainly does. This is based on the poems by Aloysius Bertrand. This one, Le Gibet, or The Gallows, goes, the English translation is as follows. What do I see moving about this gibbet? Ah, is it the whistling of the night wind I hear, or the hanged man sighing on the baleful gallows? Could it be some chirping cricket hidden in the moss and sterile ivy with which the pitying wood covers itself? Could it be some hunter fly sounding the horn about these ears that are deaf to the fanfare of the kill? Could it be some scarab beetle gathering in its irregular flight a bloodied hair from its bald skull? Or could it be some spider weaving half a length of muslin as a tie for this strangled neck? Is it the bell? It is the bell tolling on a city's walls over the horizon, and the corpse of a hanged man reddened by the setting sun. Translation was by Jeremy Drake. Very haunting. And you can hear where they're talking about, the spiders weaving. I think all of these types of passages in the piece definitely represent that. So but ever present is that bell. Ringing throughout the entire piece. Very vivid and picturesque and haunting and harrowing. So let's dig in now to the tutorial portion of this, how we could interpret the piece, what some pedaling suggestions are. I'm going to be referencing that quite a bit throughout the piece. I love this Henley app because it gives you all of the translations of the French. I don't speak French, so I always have to look these things up, but Henley makes it easy. And right at the beginning, Ravel indicates to use the soft pedal throughout the piece. We are also going to be using the sostenuto pedal, the middle pedal, to hold certain things. And sometimes, and Gaspard is the only piece that I've ever had to do this in, I have to do it in Ondine as well, to hold that G sharp. So if you have a sostenuto pedal, that functions as the sostenuto pedal. On upright pianos, sometimes it's an extra soft pedal. It puts a piece of felt between the strings and the hammers. But basically, the sostenuto pedal, quick lesson if you aren't familiar. Any notes that are held down while you press the sostenuto, it will only hold those, which can be very helpful, especially in a piece like this where Ravel has long ties through some of these measures. Now, we're not always going to use sostenuto because some of the harmonies would blend in a strange way, but there are opportunities. I will point those out as we go through the piece. I find it interesting that the piece is in 4/4, and Ravel chooses to start on the two and, the and of two. It works out harmonically with what he wanted, but he could have easily started closer to 1. I think that is symbolic of dead air, of silence before you start. So the piece starts here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So don't be in a rush as soon as you finish Ondine. Let your hands reset. 1 and 2. And that's the minimum amount of time I would recommend. Also, it's marked très lent, very slowly, but don't go so slow that it's going to be extremely, that it's going to lag. And Ravel also gives us an indication without rushing or retarding until the end. So here we go. One thing that I would suggest so far as interpretation, start a bit more distant, so a little softer. Always more or less on these slurs, these two-note bell. Bum, 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 bum. So more or less, more or less. And then the most, so we kind of crescendo to there. Of course, you're just crescendoing with the first notes because the second notes need to be a little bit of an echo. So more or less. Listen how bad it sounds if I go. That does not sound like a bell tolling. Dum, bum, ding, dong. Okay, and we'll start less. You can actually flatten the finger and kind of go in, out. Murray Pariah, I believe it was Pariah that said this on the Chopin Ballade. He said, think of saying, Chopin Ballade number 1, mother, 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 kind of that type of emphasis. And in, out, in, out, in, out. In, out. We can do the exact same thing here. So in, out. And then the most. I messed that up. Sorry. I need to start a little softer. Now, it's a judgment call. Do you want to voice every one of the left hand figurations? I've heard some scholars, as I was reading, prepping for this tutorial, they say this is kind of the gallows theme. So I know in Bob Ayan's recording, he definitely just brings this out. And you definitely get the the full figuration. I personally, one thing that I've always liked to do is bring out, just on these first few bars 3 and 4, I bring out the right hand. It's a little more bare to start out because we don't get that B flat as clearly. It's ringing though. There's the B flat, and then it's a tie on the E flat. Sorry. So you just get ta-dum, bum, pa-dum, bum. And you get little remnants in the left hand, obviously. I always liked that. Just a personal preference. can absolutely just bring out the left hand if you prefer. I try to be a little more thoughtful. So the first time, maybe a little bit more bold. Make sure the C flat is not brought out as a melody. In bar 3, it's E flat, and then tied E flat to the F, and then thoughtful the second time on bar 4. Take a little bit of time. More defeat right there. We're setting the audience up. They're really not sure what's going on. Then we have this little melody. Again, start a little bit more, then diminuendo, and then crescendo to there. Or you can go all the way to there. Really feel that 7th there, and then resolve down. So haunting. So more than, less than, to there, and then less. Something like that. Watch out for your ties. So these portato markings, the staccatos with a slur over them, you replay those, but on the bottom, where it's just a regular slur, you tie those. So you're just going to replay the top note. Make sure, a lot of students have asked me that question before in various places in the piano repertoire. That's the norm. So like right there, we're not going to replay the bottom, but we do replay that top one because it's marked portato. And then I just hold the pedal through there. Even though those are rests, I like that resonance. Okay, here we go. Left hand. And I think that sounds so much more dark if the first time you present this. Moving on. So he marks expressive here. So I think maybe more vibrant in bar 10.